speaker to lead out. We pray, Father, that your Spirit may lead in a very special way. We realize, Lord, the time that we're living in, and we realize the importance of governance of your church as well. And so we pray, Father, that you may lead us in a very special way this evening. Continue, Father, to give the speaker the strength and the wisdom from above, Lord. These things we pray in your loving name. Amen.
Thank you, everyone, again. I am back. Tonight's presentation is effective and efficient eldership. Last night was effective and efficient. Time to Prof. Gwala to take us through this important presentation. Welcome, Dr. Gwala.
Welcome, my president. How are you?
All good, all good. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Are you now handing over to me?
Yes, the time is yours.
Oh, thank you. Today, as the president has already mentioned, I'm going to be talking about effective and efficient eldership. Don't worry about the heading that I've put there, but that's what I'll be talking about this evening. Before I can continue to share important things, this is the book I spoke about yesterday. This is the book that I said it would help you if you can secure yourself a copy. That's the front part, and this is the back part of the book. All right, and therefore, if you open it, you will get the list of things that are recorded in the book itself. I'm trying to get to that page now so that you can see there are a number of things that are written here, and therefore this is your table of contents in the book. It covers a lot of things that we talked about together. Therefore, today I'm just going to continue with effective leadership, effective and efficient eldership in the local church. Let me just remove my picture from there and put it down here. Okay, put it in the corner here. Or let me just remove it. I think it would be much better if I do so. Yeah. In the Adventist church, you are going to notice that we are a bit different from other churches and from other organizations. And I think that is key and that is important. We are different because of the kind of administration that we have in the church. Now, I'm just going to quickly show you two different approaches to leadership so that you are able to pick up the correct one for the Adventist church. Now, here we go. I've contrasted two leadership approaches on the screen. I have what is called SDA approach to administration, and I also have what is called the presidential system. Now, if you are looking at the two approaches, you are going to notice something very important, which I want you to keep in mind and understand. The first one, in the Adventist church, this is the kind of administration that you envisage. In this administration, you have your president or your elder, you have your executive secretary or your church clerk, and you have your CFO or your treasurer. Now, here is the concept that is very important in the Adventist Church, the shared administration. Therefore, none of these has veto powers. There's always negotiation between the three of them, and there's always discussions. There's always cooperation, collaboration, and there's always a collective decision among them. Therefore, this is very, very important. We need to understand this concept in the Adventist Church. Now, this concept, it is documented. It's a concept that is in the Bible, in the books that we adhere to this. You get it in the working policies and all that. This is the kind of an approach to administration that we have as the Adventist Church. Then you have the presidential system. In the presidential system, you are going to pick up a few things here. Let me just drink some water, please. Just give me a Thank you very much for giving me that short space of time. Now, on my right-hand side, you have what is called presidential system. In the presidential system, you are going to pick up a few things that are important there. You are actually seeing the president is up there, or the elder is up there. Then beneath them, you actually have your executive secretary and you have your treasurer or CFO. Now, what is happening here is that your president or your elder has veto powers. He is the one, everything revolves around him or her, and therefore others are just following him. Now, you would notice that on paper, the Adventist Church operates with what is on the left-hand side. But in practice, you would notice that the Adventist Church is operating with what is on the right side, where you would have your elder up there and everybody must listen to the elder. There's no cooperation, there's no collaboration that is there. I want you to understand these two systems that are very key and very important. Then we move from there, and this is how we move. We then look at what is called SDA church polity. Now, I'm going to pick our church polity has to do with a 4-tier structure that I talked about, and it has to do with a certain understanding of how things are done in the church. And I wanted you as elders to actually understand this. Now here, what happens is that in the Adventist church, the local church is the income generating center. Monies are collected from the local church. There's not a single cent that is collected in any of the structures up there. All money is collected in the local church. Now, I want you to notice the following, though. I want you to notice that in the Adventist church, remember, I'm still going to probably talk about the governance system in the church. And there I want you to notice something very important, that in our governance system, there's interdependence. In other words, there is no hierarchy that you are going to get in the Adventist church. There's no hierarchy, and we are not congregational. Therefore, there's not a single entity that makes decisions which are isolated. When decisions are made, they affect us. Whether they are made from the local church, they affect everybody, or they are made from the higher body, they affect everybody. The church is not hierarchical, And this is another mistake that we normally think as Adventists, that when you're at the conference level, conference is higher than the church, and the union is higher than the conference. In the Adventist polity, that is not correct. In the Adventist church, you have 4-tier, and that's 4-tier. It's not in terms of hierarchy. It's in terms of interdependence. Now, what is important is that each level has its own competency, and it has a full domain of that competency. Therefore, we are not hierarchical. That's why if my church says we are not going to accept you back, Gwala, if I was removed from church membership, and I'm appealing that, and the conference decides that no, man, Gwala is right, we can see the church is wrong in its processes, but the church can still say, even if we are wrong, we are not going to take Gwala back, because they have a final authority there, and the conference cannot force them. Just like in the conference, when it comes to the employment of pastors, even if we can say we don't want this pastor, the conference is not going to fire that pastor, because the employment of pastors in their domain. Therefore, I want us to understand this is not hierarchical, but this is interdependence, which is very key, very important. The second thing that I want you to note is that funds are generated from the local church, but the conference is a cost center. It spends the money that is generated by the local church. And I want you to also notice something here. The union does not generate any funding. It spends the money that comes from the local church, because everything that the union has, it comes from the conference, which is coming from the local church. Therefore, the union spends, it's a cost center. And then you go to the general conference. The general conference is a cost center. When they give us appropriations back, they are giving us back the money they have received from us, because the three structures above the local church are not income generating. They are all cost centers. Very important. Then we look at governance documents in the SDA church. I'm not going to spend much time here. I've already traversed this journey, but I just needed you as elders to keep this in mind, that it's important for you to understand and know this concept. I'm going to quickly take the elders through what I call the organizational leadership, because at the core of your calling as elders, there is leadership that you need to demonstrate or display. Therefore, organizational leadership, I'm going to just take you through a definition. Look, organizational leadership is a management approach. I want you to underline that, in which leaders help set strategic goals. I want you to underline that for the organization, while motivating individuals within the group to successfully carry out assignments in service to those goals. Now, this is very important. And therefore, I want you to extract few things from this definition, that as a leader in the local church, you are leading an organization. And that organization, as you lead it, you become a manager there. Therefore, your approach is more managerial. And therefore, what happens then is you set strategic goals, not only you and your leadership core, as well as your church board, set strategic goals for the organization, while you as a leader motivate each individual within the church community or within the church board group to successfully carry out all the assignments that are set before them in service to the goals that you have set as the leadership. Therefore, this is very, very key and very important for you as an elder to know you are a manager in the local church, and as a manager, you have a responsibility to set strategic goals and to motivate members and to help them to successfully carry out their assignments. Therefore, that's important. Now, I want to take you through the organizational leadership skills and mindset. Very important. The first one, as a leader, it is important for you to have a problem-solving and a decision-making mind. In other words, you need to be skilled in that area, because leaders don't create problems, they solve problems. And leaders don't depend on others to make decisions, they make decisions. Therefore, this is an important combination, solving challenges and making decisions. Then secondly, communicating effectively. As a leader, if you can't communicate, you will not be able to articulate the goals that we talked about in the previous slide. Therefore, communicate effectively. And thirdly, relationship and team building is very important. Remember that other people come into positions not sure whether they fit into these positions. They doubt themselves. And therefore, as a leader, you need to have a good relationship with them. You need to build them so that they can fit in your team. Very key, very important. And identify future innovations and opportunities for your members, for your leaders to actually grow. In other words, you have picked up that I'm not as good as you would love to see me in family life. I'll make an example. And therefore, you notice that I'm good in health ministries. And therefore, as you motivate me, you actually tell me that, man, if you were to be put in this position, I can see you would excel. I would recommend that this happens, because as a board, you could actually recommend a reshuffling if you can see that the skill set is not the correct one. It does not fit into your leadership mix in the board. Therefore, it's important for you to identify those. It's also important that you understand your business environment and operations. Now, there's a difference between you being a manager in the church and you being a manager in one of the government departments, or one of the manager in one of the private sector organizations. Therefore, there's difference there. The environment is different, the operations are different. It is important for you to actually understand this business if you have been elected to be an elder. It's important for you to know the culture of that particular church, to know the traditions of that particular church, and to know the ins and outs of that particular church, so that when you are there leading, you are not confused by culture or tradition that is not recorded that you see taking place in that particular church. Therefore, it's important for you to use integrity and ethics as you deal with things. It is also important for you to think strategically, system-wide, and holistically as a leader. Once again, spread the organization's vision and inspire others to share in that vision. Now, most of the churches that we have in our union, they don't have mission and vision statements. They most of the times depend on the vision and mission statement of the conference. Therefore, every church is supposed to have its own vision statement and its own mission statement, so that before they begin their meetings, they are able to reaffirm their vision and mission statements. Their vision and mission statements are actually encourage them to remember where they come from, so that they are not content where they are now. They can make sure that they achieve more goals in future. Right. Let's quickly look at effective organizational leadership. What's happening there? One, a leader must lead himself. Only then he can lead others. This is an important aspect. You cannot struggle to lead yourself, and yet you want to lead other people. Now, leading yourself, one, you must be able to control yourself. If you can't control your appetite, you can't control your feelings, and then we put you in the leadership position, how are you going to be able to control the environment in the church? If it's important for you to actually lead yourself, you must be someone who's able to put a harness on yourself on many things in life. Therefore, be a leader that is able to lead him or herself. The second one is a leader must boost up the morale of other team members. That's why you are a leader. There are times where things are bad and you don't even want to deal with those issues. But they can be bad for you as a leader, but you have a responsibility to encourage those you are working with to ensure that everything is going accordingly and to ensure them that this thing is going to pass even with them. Therefore, you have a responsibility to boost the morale of your family, of your team members. Then as a leader, you must work as a team. You can't work in silo. You can't work alone. In the Adventist Church, remember, we have a shared view in things. Therefore, continue to embrace that shared approach in leadership. Therefore, you need a team to work with. You need to work as a team in leadership. You need to work as a team in the church board. And you need to work as a team in the entire church business meeting or in the entire church. Therefore, team member is an important aspect for you as a leader. The other important aspect is that dignity and respectfulness are very key when you are chosen to be a leader in the Adventist Church. You need to be dignified and you need to respect others. You need to respect those who are older than you and respect those who are younger than you. That will help you as you go along. The other one, serving others, very key. As you are elected to serve, you are not serving yourself or your interests, you are actually serving the interests of others. It's important to know that in the Adventist Church. Justice is very key, that you ensure that justice is something that is applied across the board in your tenure as an elder. Very key, very important. All right. And community building. We have two communities. We have the community of faith where you are a leader, and we have your community where you belong. Remember, it's important for you not to develop the community of faith alone. Where you are, your neighbors must know that there is a leader who's staying with us, and everyone around you must actually be able to pick up the example you are in that particular community. Therefore, as you lead the community of faith, lead the place where you are. As a leader, you need to be very honest as you deal with issues, deal with monies, deal with people's issues, and also deal with processes and procedures. Honesty is very, very key and important. It's essential for a leader to possess that quality. All right. Let me quickly look at the biblical climate for leadership. All right. Now, a biblical leader, number one, it's someone who is respectful. All right. Because we are gleaning this from the scripture. You must be respectful. And number two, you must be someone who's trustworthy. You cannot be a leader if we cannot trust you. You need to be trusted. And thirdly, you need to be accepted in this community. Otherwise, if they don't accept you, your leadership will not carry any weight. Acceptance is very, very important. And you also need to have depth in your leadership. People must know that you know what you are doing. You know that you are a leader, and you know that you are above everyone in your understanding of the policies as a leader, in the understanding of your responsibility as a leader. The depth is very important. Then in the process of leading other people, discover who you are, because there are a lot of things that are hidden in us up until we are put in a position where we need to swim or sink. And those positions, most of the times, they reveal who we are. And who we are would help us to know how far are we from the Lord. And sometimes they would help us to know our reliance on God and how strong that reliance is. Therefore, it's important for you to actually discover who you are in leading other people. Then, another important aspect is the issue of accountability. I've finished 40 years of service. I'm in the 41st year in ministry. There's one thing that is important, which I want to say. In the Adventist church, we have a challenge, and that challenge is accountability. It is a challenge in the local church. We don't account. The local church elects, and we are given positions, and we don't account. In the conference, we don't account. At the union, there is no accountability. This is an area where, as a church community, we are struggling, the issue of accountability. And you may say to me, at the session, we ask questions. Asking questions is never never accountability. You can ask questions. After you've asked the questions, what happens? People are going to say, we've noted, and it ends there. There's no consequence management because we have picked up that there is a challenge. This is an area where, as a leader, as an elder, please let not this be characterizing your leadership. In your leadership, people must see how accountability should be done. Oh, very important to you as a community. And then there is this quotation which I like so much. In this quotation, there is something that is important. Leadership creates and changes organizational cultures. Very important. While management and administration act within an organizational culture. Very key. Therefore, as an elder, you have a bit of leadership. If I were to give you percentages, I was going to say you have 30% leadership and 70% management in the local church, because you have the ability to change and create organizational culture. But at the same time, most of your time, you have to act within the organizational culture and within processes, within policies, and within the governance structures that are there. Therefore, it's important for you to understand the split between the two, as I've indicated. And now, let me quickly look at the responsibilities of this person called an elder, so that we all understand. Okay, I see a hand. Is the individual saying? I see a hand, Pastor Chair.
Okay. Has the hand been, I think it's down, Pastor.
Okay.
You can go ahead. Thank you.
Thank you. Let me quickly look at the eldership. There are a few things I want you to notice. This position is an important office in the local church and in the early church. In this position, you are the first ranking member of the local church, because the pastor is pastoring the entire district. Therefore, in the local church, the first ranking member is the local elder. And then this member works hand in hand with the church clerk as well as the treasurer. Remember that shared leadership that I talked about in the beginning. Then I'm going to quickly look at the qualities of a church elder. The first quality is spiritual and moral character. Very important. The reason why we have chosen you is because you have shown that you are spiritual and that you are moral. Very important. Now, I want you to know, everyone around you as an elder lowers his or her guard because they believe they are dealing with a spiritual person, with a moral person. And most of the times, it is where some of our young girls suffer in the hands of people who are in leadership, because these young girls trust us. And because they trust us, they become vulnerable to us. Therefore, as an elder, you need to show that spiritual level. You need to show that you are morally standing. Therefore, that's the first one. The second one is ability to teach and lead as an elder. If you are there, the church must not starve in your presence, and the church must be led. You must be able to direct the church to decision making. You must be able to assist the church to navigate through challenging times in your eldership. Then spiritual maturity. You must always display that when you deal with the church community. People must see that you are a spiritually matured leader in whatever you do. The other thing is good reputation. Very important that you need to have a good reputation within the church community so that your reputation could even assist others in seeing and understanding who God is. I know in the Adventist church, reputation is something that we play with. If we don't like you, we are going to drag you so that we damage your reputation. As long as you are not the cause of the damage of your reputation, God is still happy with you. If others are damaging it, God is there to vindicate you. But remember, as a leader, make sure you are not doing anything to damage your own reputation. It could be people who are doing whatever, but remain knowing that your reputation, you are responsible for it. And you are there to make sure that other people can see your good reputation. Lastly, good family leadership. Very important. You can't lead the church if you can't lead your family. Very key. That leadership, it's very key, very important. You may be asking me a question. I have my children. I taught them all well. And when one of them went to the university, ended up drinking, leaving the church, would that mean I am not a good family leader? The answer is going to be no, because you've done whatever you were supposed to do. You've taught your children, you've modeled Christianity in front of them, you have demonstrated how things are done, but there comes a stage where they need to make their own decision. But when, as a leader, make sure that you lead your family. All right? Therefore, these are the qualities of a leader. Then we go to characteristics of a leader. The first one is spiritual maturity and spiritual integrity. Very important that as a leader must demonstrate that integrity. Number two is that a leader must possess leadership, servant leadership skills and abilities. Very important. And that faith and dependence on God, it's something that we must see in your leadership. And then the other one, humility, very important. You may know things, you may be experienced, but humility goes a long way as a leader. And love and compassion, very important. We're not dealing with robots, we're dealing with people, and we need to be compassionate. We need to love them. And wisdom and discernment, very important. Some of the decisions, they want us to really think hard. They want us to pray before we could make those decisions. And then vision and guidance, very important, that you must be a visionary person. You must be able to guide. And then accountability and responsibility. Those are other characteristics that are needed from you as a person who leads the church. Let's quickly go through qualifications of an elder. The first one is you are called to serve. You are not called to be in a vacuum. You are not called to reputation. You are not called so that people can see that you are also able to lead. You are called to serve. Therefore, that should be in your mind, the servanthood in your mind. The second one, you need to be committed to Christ. If there's no commitment, your eldership is not meaningful. It doesn't bring any positive results to those who are part of your followership, right? And then time commitment. Here, we're dealing with an aspect that is very important. As a leader, you need to ensure that you keep time, you are there timelessly. Members must see from you how time is kept, how one should be on time when doing things. A leader who is not exemplary in keeping the time, that leader will always have a challenge with the members because they are following what that leader is doing. It's not so easy, but let's try it, leadership. Let's commit time and say, this time I'm going to be at church. At home, this time I'm going to be doing something for God. And at this time at work, even though I'm working, I want to take my lunch time and do something for God. Commit time and keep to that time and be on time when you do things. Then love for mankind, very important. We need to love everybody. We need to care for everybody. Example to members, we need to be exemplary in how we forgive others. We need to be exemplary in how we execute responsibilities that are given to us. We need to be exemplary in returning to God what belongs to Him. For example, it's one of the most important things in leadership. All right, let's quickly look at leadership responsibilities. The first one, Testimonies, Volume 3, page 269 says, leaders should not conceal sins in the camp because they become responsible for them. Baba, they accomplices to that sin. Therefore, it's important that as leaders, we don't conceal sins in the camp. The second one is church governance and church discipline hold the church together. That's Ellen G. White, Testimonies to the Church, Volume 3, page 428. Therefore, as a leader, I have a responsibility for church governance and church discipline. All right. Then the third one, it's in Testimonies, Volume 8, page 240. Safeguard unity of the church, and those who refuse to work in harmony greatly dishonor God. Very important. As a leader, you need to look for the unity of the church, work for the unity of the church, make sure that the church remains united. Matthew 18 says church leadership must keep in mind the biblical counsel for settling disputes among Christians. Matthew 18 is very key. Therefore, we need to encourage people to go through that process. And we as a church community must adhere to that process so that we don't expect other people to go through it and we undermine it in the process. That is very important for us to really look at. Then let's look at current leadership climate. You notice that prior 2020, communities lived a relatively normal life in spite of the normative challenges that were experienced. And you would notice then that in 2020 onwards, we began what has been termed a new normal, which has been uncharted for at least 100 years since the days of the Spanish fever in 1918. Now, leadership, as I've said, was now engulfed with fear. Everyone, either young or old, employed or unemployed, professional or entrepreneur, consumer or commuters, educational personnel, learners or students, everyone has been filled with fear. Even now, that level of fear has not gone down. Therefore, we have experienced a decline in social engagement, in spiritual engagements, since there is a lack of modeling Christian behavior. Most of our churches now are still empty in the afternoons because of what happened. Therefore, we are seeing this decline in our church community, and it's happening time and again. Then infections and deaths, they are also in the rise since that time. There are more people that are dying now. They are reminding us of Romans 7:25, who shall rescue us? And we need that rescue. Relationship with God and fellow men, as well as those of husbands and wives and parents and children, have suffered a huge blow. This was manifested in the rise of GBV in our communities and reluctance to go to church or even to observe the Holy Sabbath. And psychological and psychiatric cases came as a result of the climate, of the current climate and the leadership challenges that we are experiencing. And therefore, I want to say and suggest that everything has actually come down. Our people now have lost jobs, you can see, and tithing has come down. We are gradually going less than 20% in our tithing, and family livelihoods have been affected. We're living really in a climate that needs strong leadership in the church and in our communities. And therefore, we need to now look at how we can deal with issues. Let's quickly look at the biblical framework of the leadership. Now here you are going to notice one thing in Deuteronomy 18:17-28. Moreover, thou shalt provide out of all the people able men, such as fear God, men of truth, hating covetousness, and place such over them to be rulers of thousands and rulers of hundreds, rulers of 50s and rulers of 10s. All right. Therefore, that's your Deuteronomy 18. Now, there are a few things that I want you to notice here, principles. In that verse or two passages, you'll notice that there's principle of delegation. As an elder, you cannot hold everything. You need to delegate. And secondly, there is a principle of small groups. You cannot be in charge of huge groups because you are not going to do justice. Therefore, small groups are very important. Then you have the principle of accountability that you need to entrench in your community, in your community of faith. It's there in Deuteronomy 18. Then you have the principle of unity, because when they work towards you. Therefore, there is unity in what they do and unity in what it's done. And then the introduction of a leadership structure. All right, you could see that 4-tier structure that was demonstrated there, the thousands, the hundreds, the 50s, and the 10s. Therefore, you get that 4-tier structure there. Right, let's quickly look at the responsibilities of an elder. We have highlighted a number of things that an elder should be aware of, that he should be practicing. An elder, one of the responsibilities, an elder is a preacher, an elder is a promoter, an elder is an evangelist, an elder is an administrator, and an elder is a teacher. These are key things for an elder. You are a preacher, you are a promoter, you are an evangelist, you are an administrator, you are a shepherd, you are a teacher, right? Now let's quickly go through each of these in a nutshell. As an administrator, what do? You administer the church through that admin council that I talked about, where you have your elder, your church clerk, and your treasurer. You administer the church through your church board, and then you ensure that there are meetings, that your business meeting gets so that those meetings can inform the direction of the church. That's the first one. The second one, you oversee all the departments of the church because those departments need to report to you as an elder, or you facilitate the reporting process. Very important, you oversee those departments. That's why every committee, you are an ex officio member in them. Then you facilitate a proper reporting that should be done by the church board quarterly to the church board and to the church business meeting. Very important. And you work closely with the Treasury Department in drawing up the budgets for the church. And then you support all departments in the church. That's your administrative function within the church. Secondly, the second duty is an evangelist. You work closely with the personal ministries leader and you initiate an evangelistic project at least once a year. If you are there as an elder, you cannot justify why your church has not been involved in an evangelistic or in an outreach project. You cannot justify that. Therefore, you could have various projects of evangelism. At least you must have one project that is spearheaded by you as an elder in the church, working hand in hand with personal ministries. Encourage all the departments to be evangelistic in their approach. And evangelism serves as a major item in church business, very important. Remember when we gave you the template for the agenda, we said it's a standing item. Evangelism gets a fair share in church's annual budget because it carries the mission of the church, monitors evangelism statistics and their distribution to relevant recipients. Therefore, as an evangelist, this is what you would do as an elder. Now, again, an elder is a teacher, a preacher, sorry. What you do, you feed the flock. That's your responsibility. Number two, you plan the preaching roster, preaching program. How do you plan the preaching roster? You sit down with the departments. First of all, you take all the dates from the conference. These are the dates they need us on. You block them. Once you are done with that, you take the dates of the district and then you block them. Once you are done with that, you take the dates of the communion service and then you block them. Then you request dates from your departments. Then they would give dates and they would also give you suggested names. And therefore, you then take those names to the board, then the board is going to vote them. When they are voted, you will take them to the business meeting votes them, and then you will process the service requests because now you have a preaching plan for the entire year. That is your responsibility as an elder. And then encourage prayer meetings. I'm going to talk more on ways to encourage it later. Conduct communion service as a spiritual highlight per quarter. You do that in consultation with the pastor or with the pastor. Preach biblically with relevance and positivity as an elder. Encourage Bible class as well as baptismal classes to be conducted every Sabbath during the Sabbath school time. Very important. As an elder, the baptismal class is yours, but when the pastor comes, it is the pastor's class. But that class must always be there, manned by the elder. Conducts child dedication service at least once a year or once a quarter, depending on the number of children you have. You can do child dedication. You don't need to wait for the pastor. But what is important is if there are children to be dedicated, inform the pastor and then agree, the two of you, that you can continue to dedicate them. All right, but you can do child dedication without a pastor if the two of you have agreed that you can do it. Encourage Bible studies in order to reach one member, one soul. That used to be the goal of the division some time ago. Therefore, as a preacher, this is what you are doing as an elder. Right, and then we leave that one. we go to your responsibility as a shepherd. What do you do as a shepherd? You visit the flock. Very important. You coordinate a visiting program, a visitation program in collaboration with the diaconate as well as the pastorate. Because in the church, there are three departments that visit members. It's your pastor, it's your deaconate, it's your eldership. Therefore, these people are guaranteed that they should be visiting members. Therefore, you coordinate a visiting program for them. You take care of the senior citizens of the church. They are retired. They are very lonely. They enjoy those visits. They want to see you visiting them. Therefore, take care of them. And then remember special days of the church as well as of the members, people's birthdays, people who got married, their anniversaries, very important, and achievements, very important. Announce them in the church so that people can feel that the church cares for them. The church has their interested heart, very important. Then visit the bereaved, very important, because those people need you when they have lost their loved ones. Then look after young people and children in the church. They need you also, those young people. And then counsel those who need counsel, refer to the pastor, those who are beyond you, and the pastor will do the counseling. If they are beyond him, he should have a referral system to psychologists who are going to be helping him. Right, let's look at the elder as a promoter. You promote local church programs, you promote conference programs, union and division, union, division, and GC, and you promote your district events. What are your district events? Camp meeting, district fair, district joint activities, district evangelism drive, anything that you do in your local district, you promote it. Therefore, as a promoter, you are promoting every event that members are going to benefit on. Then the pastor is a teacher. Remember, teacher must be consecrated to the task of teaching so that people can benefit in your teaching. The teacher should have a strong love for God, serve God and others. Very important. You can't just be there as an elder without a connection with God. You must have a strong love for him. The teacher is devoted to the task of teaching, and the teacher lives a prayerful life. Very important. The teacher teaches in season and out of season. There's no time where you cannot teach as an elder. Our faith must translate into teaching. Very key, because it's an overflow of how we live at home and in the church. By teaching, an elder raises the bar of spirituality among his or her members. Very important, because members are now going to grow in faith and grow spiritually. Now, relationship between the pastor and an elder, that's very, very key and very important. Here, it's the pastor is the first ranking officer in the church, in the district. Remember, I said in the local church, it's the elder. Therefore, in the district, it is the pastor. And the elder is the first ranking officer in the church, and therefore second in the district. Very important. And then find time to work with the pastor. Pastors, they claim to be busy, but as an elder, find time to work with the pastor. Maximize the pastor's strengths, because every pastor has a strong side and has a weaker side. Maximize the strong side of the pastor. Compensate for the pastor's shortcomings. Don't expose the shortcomings of a pastor. Compensate, cover those as an elder. And then nurture the pastoral family. Remember, there is no one closer to them. They can be lonely. They can feel very vulnerable because they are pastoring you. Everybody's challenges, needs, they are responsible for them. They must be the ones who's coming to pray. They must be the one who must be counseling. But to them, sometimes they don't have someone who does that. If as an elder, visit your pastor, pray with your pastor, invite your pastor, and sometimes check up on him. Are you okay, Mfundis? So that the pastor can also feel cared for and loved in that congregation. The pastor and elder are working very close to each other, and therefore they should work in consultation with each other. There's no competition. There's no pirates and chiefs. You are either pirates or you are chiefs. Therefore, that competition is not there. You are working with the very same people, and you have an interest at heart to develop and build the very same people. And then they are both chairpersons of the board as well as business meeting. Why fight when you are assisting each other? Both require ordination in order to serve, and you are in the same league. Why fighting with one another? Let's quickly look at the limitations of an elder. An elder cannot baptize unless granted permission by the Conference Executive Committee. An elder cannot officiate in solemnizing marriages. An elder cannot ordain elders and deacons and deaconesses unless working together with an ordained pastor. Only 3 things you cannot do as an elder, but all other things you can do. You can sing, you can preach, you can chair meetings, you can officiate in child dedication, you can officiate in communion service, you can conduct funerals, any other thing that the church may mandate you to do. Therefore, there is a lot that you can do than the things you cannot do. Why compete with a pastor? And why say, no, I'm not going to work with him, when you have your work cut up and you are able to do it? Right. Let's quickly look at the leadership response in the current climate. I'm going to quickly do that. Act with urgency when you deal with issues in our time. It's no longer the past time where you would relax and where you would drag your feet. Act with urgency. The number 2, communicate with transparency. People today want you to be transparent. If you are not transparent, they are not going to remit their tithes. If you are not transparent, they are not going to support your programs. Therefore, you need to communicate with transparency as an elder in the church. And thirdly, you need to respond productively to missteps. If there are mistakes that are done, take responsibility and say, God's people, we've blundered here. We apologize. Please give us another chance. Don't hide missteps. Indicate that they are there. Respond to them productively. And the church will forgive you because the church knows that it has not elected a holy people, right? Then engage in constant updating. People want to know what's happening. People want to know what's happening at the conference, what's happening at the union, what's happening at the GC elections. Engage people. People must know what's happening. What are the dynamics within the church? And you are there as an elder. If you don't know, engage your pastor so that your church is kept informed, right? And then tapping into suffering to build meaning. That what we call empathic listening, very important. Getting in people's shoes and understanding them before you could speak on their behalf. Therefore, it's important to tap into people's conditions and situations and then be in their shoes so that you can be their spokesperson as an elder. Very key, very important. And then be calm as you deal with these issues because sometimes they can be hostile. Be a confident person. Don't be someone who is not sure whether you want to resolve things. Be courageous and be confident. Well, communication, sometimes it is golden to keep quiet and not speak out of 10 when you are not ready and not sure what to communicate. That is very key, very important, that you know when to speak and you know when to. Collaboration is very key. As a leader, you need to collaborate with other leaders, with the pastor, with the departments, and with your fellow officers, in other words, your secretary and your treasurer. Very important to do that. All right. And let me leave this one, and then let me quickly give practical approaches to leadership. It's important that we use virtual platforms. They are so powerful. We can do preaching there, teaching, Wednesday prayer meetings, and we can even do baptismal class. You can do your Sabbath school classes on Saturdays, Friday evening, so that you prepare for Sabbath. You can do your induction there. You can actually do your church boards and business meetings there. These can help you. The virtual platforms are good for all of us. All right. They create things like small groups that people can meet, and you can use outdoor services to enhance people, to call people together. In the olden days when COVID was here, we even had what was called virtual communion service, where people would do a drive-through a church and get the emblems, and then at a certain time, we conduct it via Zoom. And then the drive-through for tithes and offerings. And then at that time, we used to have a point in my churches in Port Elizabeth. And therefore, what would happen is those people who are unable to transfer money to their account, they would then do a drive-through, and then they would pay whatever or return whatever they needed to retain. And if you can't use the speed point, therefore there was someone who would take your cash there, a deacon, there were two deacons plus an elder who would be there. Therefore, these drive-throughs were of great help because these were innovations, and we still need innovations even today, right? And therefore, in this department, you need stationery, you need transport, you need your departmental resources, you need a communication to help you to move forward. Therefore, these are things that are important. With those, Pastor Munsami, let me then hand over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Gwala, for taking us through the importance of eldership, the effectiveness and efficiency that we need. I'm going to open up for any questions that you may have or comments. Okay. There's a statement, it's not a question. Okay, let me read it. Mentoring and training of young leaders should be promoted to avoid leadership vacuum and repeated nomination of one person who might not be growing the church. Thank you, Dr. Gwala, for such an informative session. Any questions? Okay, we are getting thank yous.
There is a
Okay.
question, how can I get the book, as I will not be attending the Sabbath in Durban? I am at the northern part of KwaZulu, Vryheid district. I think, Pastor President, you can answer those questions.
Yeah. Okay, so for those of you who want a copy of the book by Dr. Gwala, please let Pastor Paul know of your desire to have a copy, and then we will get it from Dr. Gwala, and then it will be sent to you. We'll make arrangements for it to be sent to you. Doc, we didn't get the price of the book.
The price of the book is 250, but because you were part of this training, I am going to drop the 50 rands, and then you will pay for 200 rands only this week up until Sunday. Anything beyond Sunday, the book is going to go back to 250.
Okay, members, if you need a copy, it's 200 Rand. If you order by Sabbath, and let Pastor Mpo know, and then we'll make arrangements to send the book to you. Okay.
I hear
Yes,
there are two messages I missed
yes.
on top. I wonder which messages are those.
It's one about the book, and the other one was a statement. Thank you, leadership, for sharing this information. Indeed, a well-informed leadership is a lever towards carrying out the movement agenda. Okay. Yes, we will have the book on Sabbath, but please, you need to order with Pastor Mpo and make arrangements for payment with him, and then we will arrange with Professor Gwala.
Mhm. There's Galaxy whose hand is up.
Go ahead, Galaxy.
Thank you, Mfundisi. I just want to have one question, Mfundisi. Thank you so much for the presentation. But I want to know if what is being done if the if the elder does not return tithe and offering. What we do as a church? Thank you.
Thank you, Prof.
Thank you.
If when you elected him, he was returning tithe, there was nothing wrong in you electing him. But if the elder has stopped returning tithe, by stopping returning tithe, he has removed himself from office. Therefore, as a church, you should actually acknowledge his removal from office, because the reason why you are there, you are returning tithe. That's why those who are not returning have not been elected. If you have decided to join those who are not returning tithe, you have removed yourself from the position. Therefore, the church just needs to acknowledge the removal and replace you graciously.
Thank you, Prof. The next hand is Vusi. Vusi, can unmute and share your question.
Okay,
Vusi,
while Vusi is trying to unmute, let me answer. There's a question here in the chat. Is it advisable for elders to serve indefinitely? The answer is no. The church manual is clear that people should not serve indefinitely, even though it does not give us the number of the terms, but it does say you cannot serve indefinitely.
thank you. Vusi, go ahead.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I've got a question. I heard that one of the elders' qualification that the elder should be a good family leader. Okay. Now I need to know, what if the elder stays with his or her parent and it does not, that is the family. I don't think a person who stays with the parent can be regarded as a good family leader. So if a person stays with the parent, can that person be elected as an elder while he's not leading his or her family? Because I believe if the person does not lead his or her family, cannot lead the church. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think our church manual is looking at an ideal situation. The ideal situation is that an elder is supposed to be a married somebody who has influence at home. But of course, we live in an environment that things are not as normal as the Bible would put them, or the manual would put them. And therefore, in as much as we would love to see a family member, but if there is no family member, there is a young person who has the qualities, I don't think we will say you are not ticking this box. We are going to elect that young man fully knowing that he is young and he does not have some of the experiences that we are looking for. And therefore, as a community of faith, we need to make sure that we are supporting that young man because we have chosen that young man knowing very well that he has not experienced certain things in life that would have prepared him to lead the church. All right. And then there's a follow-up question on what I said about the elder removing himself. The answer to this question of Galaxy A32 is everyone who is elected. The basis for election is returning a faithful tithe and offering. If I stop doing it, I cease to be an officer in the church. Therefore, I've self-removed myself, whether I'm an elder or I'm a departmental leader. Then there's another question. I'm not sure. Okay. I think Vusi wants to do a follow-up.
Okay. Vusi, go ahead.
Thanks, Pastor.
Sorry,
I
I
think
forgot to lower the hand. It's a lazy hand, Pastor.
Oh, okay. Now we
there's
have
another Vusi here.
Yeah.
Oh, another
Ndakane.
voice. Oh, Vusi Mtagan. I'm sorry. Okay, Babu Mtagan.
Go ahead, Ndakane.
Thank you, Chap. Prof, I'm trying to make a follow-up. What if the person was elected into a leadership position without having being considered as to whether he does return a tithe or not? Say when the nominations are happening, that aspect is overlooked completely. It's not even checked, but people are elected into positions of leadership. How do we move forward with that?
While you are still on the floor, my brother, was the pastor part of those elections?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. This is my response. The pastor is the custodian of the policy. He is an extension of the office. And the church manual is very clear that the chairperson of the nominating committee is the pastor. And the reason why the pastor is designated as the chairperson of the nominating committee is for him to apply relevant policies in the election of people. For instance, there are two things that are important when you are electing people. The first one is regular standing, and the second one is policies relating to suitability of this individual. And those policies would include tithe returning. All right. There are about 5 areas I mentioned the other day, about 5 areas. Therefore, as a pastor, I have a duty. I have a fiduciary duty to ensure that we are doing what the manual is saying, what the policies of the church are saying. If people are elected in the presence of the pastor, people who are not returning tithe, people who are divisive, and people who are not team players, and people who are not capable of doing certain things that they are put to do. Therefore, I pity that church. You are in a serious predicament because the pastor is supposed to be doing that job. And therefore, my brother, it's difficult. I don't think the church would do anything because the church has voted. The church does not know that this person is not returning because we don't stand there and say so-and-so is not returning. But if the pastor can allow that, hey, I think that is a serious dereliction of duty.
Yeah. Thank you, Pastor. There's one more there. Please elaborate on the hierarchy of elders. Is there any difference in terms of roles between the head elder and other elders?
Okay, I think this is a misunderstanding. I was talking about the hierarchical nature of the church, saying in the Adventist church, we do not have hierarchy. If the person is asking about elders, in the church manual, we have the first elder, we have an associate elder, then we have assistant elders. All right. And therefore, all these, they are all ordained, they all have ecclesiastical authority, all of them, and they do things in consultation with one another. But when it comes to administrative issues, the first elder is the one who's tasked with administrative issues in the church. But in terms of equality, they are all at the same level. But this one, it's more administrative than others.
Okay, we have A.N. Sibanda.
Oh, good evening. I heard that sometimes the pastor is at fault when the elections are done and he condones. What if the church has not included the treasurer in the nominating committee? Because the treasurer is the one who knows who is tithing and who is not.
There is no provision in the church manual that the treasurer should be included. Actually, if you do that, you make a big mistake, because the treasurer is going to expose confidential information publicly. What normally happens is that the treasurer is going to give me as a pastor a list of people that are faithful and over the 12 months. And then I use that list. It's me as a pastor who's going to say, let's pass that name. It's not the treasurer. Once you give the treasurer that right, you then violate people's rights, because tithing is confidential.
Yes. Thank you. Dagane, you got a follow up?
Yeah, one last time. I think, Prof, the challenge we may be facing in some of the churches is that the issue of tithing is left unattended for the entire year. Then you only hear about it when it comes to elections. During the course of the year, nothing is said, nothing is done, no follow up on individuals, no visitations. Then, when it is now raised during the time of elections, it is now perceived as gatekeeping, that you allowed people to go throughout the year and you said, I will wait for you at the end of the year for election. So I think that then creates a negative perception, which ultimately leads to certain nominating committees saying, hey, maybe let's let this one slide, because nothing was done about it during the course of the year. We only waited for the end of the year to start saying, you are not returning, therefore you are not going to be appointed. I think we have a shortcoming as a church when it comes to that point.
I agree with you in so far as saying, as a church community, we could be at fault. However, there is no church that can waive the requirement of being an example in returning tithes and offering. That's a policy issue. Therefore, the local church cannot tamper with that. I agree with you that during the year, the treasurer, the stewardship committee, the pastor, the elders are supposed to do their work. And when they have failed, they will be causing a serious challenge for the nominating committee. I fully agree with you there, that we need to start working with the people as soon as we have been elected. Don't wait until it's the end of the year and then pounce on people. But even if we have not done anything, the church cannot waive a policy provision. All right, let me entertain the questions that are here.
Yes,
Let's
go ahead,
see.
Doctor.
Where are the questions? Where do we start?
The last two there, Pastor.
Okay. What Livingston is saying something there. Have you noted?
Yeah, he's saying that it's unfortunate that members choose to distance themselves from what the
Oh,
church guidance. Yeah, he's making a
okay.
statement. Yeah.
Statement. What must the church do if the election, I can't say that word, election.
If the elected
gets
elder
a-
later gets a job that will make him work on Sabbath.
Remember, I said Sabbath is a test of fellowship.
Mm.
I think it's important for the elder to step down when he is working on Sabbath, and the church has a responsibility to also do consequence management with the elder.
Okay, the last one for tonight. Can a person who is involved in worldly politics be elected as an officer?
That's a challenging one. That's a challenging one. It's challenging because you've allowed that member to be a member in regular standing. And therefore, unless that member is divisive, unless that member is not a team player, unless that member is not competent, unless that member is not returning tithe, and unless that member is not in regular standing. But if that member is in regular standing and he ticks all the boxes, but he just belongs to a particular party, I don't think it would be fair for you not to elect him if he ticks the boxes that I've mentioned. But if he's divisive because he's in a political party, you can't elect him. It's important for you not to cover everyone with one blanket. Let each person's merit be looked into individually.
Thank you, Professor Gwala. Thank you, members. Thank you for your comments, feedbacks, and questions. It is 8 o'clock. We want to close the session, and thank you, Dr. Gwala, for guiding us through. I will ask Elder Mdakane Vusi to close in prayer for us.
Let us pray. Thank you, Heavenly Father, for an opportunity to gather in this fashion, to be able to be reminded of how your church needs to be administered. May you bless Professor Gwala, whom you have used during these sessions. May you give him more wisdom to be able to teach, to correct, and to guide the church in terms of how the administration should be conducted. Be with us as we are part of this session. May you help us understand what you expect from us as leaders in the church. And may you give us that teachable spirit so that after you have taught us, we may go back and demonstrate that we have learned from you and we do things right in your church. May you bless everyone who was part of this session. Keep the words that have been spoken in our hearts and keep us during the course of this night. And if it is good in your eyes for us to see the next day, may you wake us up ready to go out there and be of service to you. Thank you, Heavenly Father, for an opportunity to pray. May you accept our prayer in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, everyone. Tomorrow we will be at Durban Central. For those of you who are in Durban and surrounding areas, please join us at Durban Central. It will be live streamed as well. And then we will also meet at Toti Civic Center on Sabbath. Good night. God bless. We will see you tomorrow.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.